100.
Yeah.
Born in 1945.
Right. Yeah. And the gulf of the countries that they grew up in, that there's an absolute vast difference, that we've been managing the decline for such a long period of time so that the worldview of a young person that ends up being an older person like Bob Katter or a young person like this senator. So is that a fair start to the conversation? Yeah. So where to and how do those of us on the centre right have to start saying, not take for granted how the system should work, but actually show younger people the examples of how it can work better?
Yeah, well, the young people are always saying, you baby boomers had it easy. Look, and in a sense we did. Bob Katter grew up in the 60s. He went first job in the 60s. When he first started work, we had growth rates of 5, 6, sometimes 7% a year.
Wow.
And we had productivity growing and everything was looking fantastic. Opportunities were opening up. Now we have to stand up for Generation Z. They're easy to knock them and their TikTok videos and all that, but we're not going to do that. To stand up for them, they're growing up at a time when Treasury says the growth's going to be 2% for the next 40 years. Right. That's 2/3 of what it's been for the last 30. So we're telling them you're going to grow up in much harder times than we did. You're going to have fewer opportunities than we did. Now, I think that's a kind of defeatist attitude. I think we've got to say to them, the world is your oyster. Take it away. You've got all the opportunities in life. Don't take it as what Treasury's saying. This country can be great again if you just throw yourselves into it.
But have we slowly but surely boxed in younger generations to a certain way of thinking because of the overreach of the state, not to mention the education systems, but in many ways, young people are always left, right? But it's this reliance and demand that government solves every single problem. And you make, again, this great point that, this 21-year-old, she may well have been finishing school when we were telling people they couldn't go to school because of COVID.
Yeah. Well, COVID was a big part of their lives.
Yes.
It's about, a 10th of your life if you were 20. For us, it's about,
Yeah, ding.
But that's the point. And, we've had this helicopter parenting idea, which is real, right? Parents are much more keeping an eye on their kids the whole time. We've now got the helicopter government, which tells us everything we can and cannot do, regulates everything. And I think people have grown up in that era, in this century. They've come to think that's normal instead of, as we did, well, we're just going to give it a go. The world's your oyster. Your life is only as good as you're going to make it. I don't think they have the same attitude today.
So how do we, because again, I'm committed to this idea of just, everyone else can do the generation wars, I'm not going to do it, right? Because very obviously, right, demographically, these groups are around longer than others, and we want to make sure that a country is able to have as many positive days as possible. But it does feel like it is too easy just to write off a generation because of its taste in music, hairstyles, all of that old people stuff, right? And by that, I just mean old attitudes, right? Not about particular ages. So I understand that this message is important, but is this message best heard by people of a similar age? Because pretty obviously, you and I are not going to cut it with being able to perhaps connect with a 23-year-old as best as we used to.
Well, to be honest, it was a not so subtle message for the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
Because the way they're going to revive themselves is to come back to what Robert Menzies talked about, what John Howard talked about, which is aspiration. Yeah. It's about saying, we're going to get government off your backs and we're going to reduce regulations, we're going to reduce taxes, we're going to give you every opportunity to get on in life. I think that's what the Liberal Party should be doing. It's this message of hope. It's the message that next year can be better than this year, that you can do better than your parents.
Yes.
We just took that as normal, that we were going to be better off than our parents, as our parents took it that as normal that they would be better off than theirs. But honestly, with the way Treasury's forecasting the economy, I'm not at all confident that my children are going to finish up better than I did.
Sadly, the same, right? Which is that, look, technologies mean that they're going to know more than perhaps I did at certain ages. But if their relationship to government, every budget is what's in it for me, what's the handout, every election, I mean, literally think about it, right? Every election is just about how much can you spend in order to cleave off a particular demographic. Then that's I don't want to live in that place.
No.
I don't want to get there.
No, exactly. But they're in that space. So Senator-elect Walker from South Australia, who turned 21 on election day, as it happens, she's going to be in the Senate. Big supporter of Albo's plan to take money off student debts. It's going to save them $5,500, she said. $5,500 makes a difference between eating and not eating. Well, I think that's rubbish. I mean, you and I know that's rubbish. But that's the line. We're entitled to it. No thought about, well, if we take this money, who pays that tax? Who pays that tax? It gets paid by working people. Mums are working in shopping centres. Dads who are tradies. They're paying for these students who have a very good chances in life.
Thank you for the chat, mate. It's brilliant. The article, it's up on my Facebook page. Awesome and lovely to see you again. Good on you, Nick. Nick Cater there in the Man Cave.